Welcome back to the desk. Today's brief asks a hard question. What does it mean when private pain turns out to follow a public pattern? This is the Sociology Desk, issue 017. Two events, and for each, the concept, the thinker, and the precise way to write it. So your answer reaches the 19-mark band. Let us begin. Our first event is sobering. A national task force has reported that 73% of higher educational institutions have no full-time mental health professional, that student suicides now exceed farmer suicides in absolute number, and crucially, that these suicides cluster by caste and by institution. Where does this sit? Paper 1. Sociological thinkers, Durkheim on suicide and the social fact. The weak candidate treats suicide as individual tragedy. You will treat it as Durkheim demanded, as a social fact. So, how do you open? Never open with sympathy or psychology alone. Open with the foundational claim. When an act as seemingly private as suicide clusters by caste and by institution, it ceases to be private. It becomes a social fact requiring structural diagnosis. The clustering is the clue. Patterns point to social causes, not just individual pain. That single sentence puts you on the exact terrain Durkheim opened a century ago. Your anchor is Emile Durkheim, and the concept is suicide as a social fact. From his study, Suicide, Durkheim showed that suicide rates are patterned and explicable by social conditions, not exhausted by individual pathology. He gave us the types: egoistic suicide, where social integration is too weak, and anomic suicide, where normative regulation has collapsed. The task force's clusters map directly onto this: weak integration for isolated students, collapsed regulation in overpressured institutions. Name Durkheim, and the tragedy becomes analysis. Two more thinkers give the Indian and the structural depth. B.R. Ambedkar warned that constitutional formality alone could not displace graded inequality, and the persistence of caste discrimination across more than 2,000 institutions is exactly his prediction: caste reproducing itself inside modern institutional shells. And Robert Merton refines Durkheim for the credential economy: the strain between celebrated goals, success and mobility, and the institutionally available means. Mentorship, timely scholarships, belonging, produces the very pressure the task force identifies. Durkheim names the social fact, Ambedkar names the caste, Merton names the strain. How to write it for marks? The 14-mark script laments student mental health and asks for more counselors. Compassionate, but not sociology. The 19-mark script opens with suicide as a social fact, deploys Durkheim's egoistic and anomic types, then sharpens with Ambedkar on caste reproduced inside institutions and Merton on means-ends strain, using the caste clustering and the 73% figure as evidence. It closes structurally. The remedy is integration and regulation, not merely individual therapy. Naming the social fact and the caste is what lifts this from 15 to 19. Expect this. 20 marks. Paper 1. Quote: suicide is a social fact. Unquote. In the light of recent data on student suicides in higher education, critically examine. Hold Durkheim, Ambedkar, and Merton, and the answer is yours in 250 disciplined words. Our second event is a quiet but important debate. Editorials are pushing for a universal disability pension floor, a guaranteed minimum for the country's 2.6 crore persons with disabilities, replacing the present patchwork of discretionary state schemes. Where does this sit? Paper 1. Stratification, the concepts of exclusion and deprivation, with Citizenship. The weak candidate describes disability welfare schemes. You will say something sharper. When a pension is anchored in charity rather than citizenship, the disability category itself becomes a managed stigma. Your anchors. Erving Goffman's concept of stigma, the spoiled identity, from his work Stigma, explains why disability welfare stays fragmented and discretionary. Goffman defined stigma as the gap between a person's virtual and actual social identity and the welfare system treats disability as a discreditable attribute to be classified and managed, not as a citizen with a claim. T.K. Oommen supplies the remedy, his distinction between formal legal citizenship and substantive social citizenship. A universal pension floor converts an act of state discretion into an entitlement that is constitutive of personhood. This is likely a 10 marker, so be tight. Do not list disability schemes. Open with the claim that charity-based welfare turns disability into a managed stigma. Deploy Goffman to explain the discretionary, fragmented delivery, and Oommen to frame the universal floor as substantive citizenship. Close on the structural point. Substantive equality is achieved by removing administrative discretion at the point of entitlement, not by enumerating disability more finely. And the likely question: examine how Goffman's concept of stigma illuminates the welfare architecture for persons with disabilities. With Goffman and Oommen, it is yours. Let us revise. 1. Student suicides. Read through Durkheim's Suicide as a Social Fact, with its egoistic and anomic types, sharpened by Ambedkar on caste inside institutions and Merton on strain. 2. The disability pension floor. Read through Goffman's Stigma and Oommen's substantive citizenship, charity into entitlement, and the rule that decides your rank. Treat the event as evidence and make the theory the destination. That is today's brief. If you would like the full answer blocks and model answers for these events, just leave your email in the comments or write to us at team@upscdesk.com, and our team will share the subscription details. I wish you the very best with your preparation. And these are heavy themes, so let me say this plainly. Take care of your own mind as fiercely as you pursue this examination. The two are not in conflict. The aspirant who endures wins. I will see you tomorrow.